Hello and welcome back to the Engage 8 podcast. I am Josh with my co host Mike. Today on the agenda, we are ranking the top five of every position group in the NFL based on last season and going into next season, as well as discussing some of the MLB trade deadline news. As we are recording here on Wednesday, the trade deadline ended yesterday at 6 Eastern. So we're going to go over some of the trade deadline moves. We will start. Do you want to start with some of your notable trade deadline moves?
I could go over the notable White Sox trade deadline moves. They did get rid of Eloy Jimenez finally. He's suffered through injuries running to first base, injuries hitting the wall. Anywhere you could think on the baseball field, he's probably hurt himself there. Practicing, he's hurt himself there. They just kind of unloaded his contract, got a 26-year-old prospect kind of reliever. He's been playing good in AAA, Trey McGoo. Just good for the White Sox to finally get rid of him. The White Sox suck. I don't even know if I want to talk about their other trade, considering how just atrocious it was. But I will. It was a three-team trade: Dodgers, St. Louis, and the White Sox. The St. Louis only gets rid of Tommy Edman. They sent him to LA. Michael Kopech from the White Sox goes to LA as well. Eric Fedde and Tommy Pham both go to the St. Louis Cardinals. And all the White Sox receive after getting rid of Eric Fedde, Michael Kopech, and Tommy Pham is Miguel Vargas, who is a young hitter. He can develop into something very good. He's yet to really pick a position. He's played a couple infield spots, but he's kind of more an outfield guy. Seems like left field. Hits about 200, but he's still young. He can develop. Gerald Perez, second baseman. Nice. He's only 19 years old. He can develop. And then infielder Alexander Albertus, who has just had a stress fracture in his leg, so he'll be out for the rest of the season. He's only 19. I just don't think the White Sox, especially in this market for pitching that has been so heavy, we've seen a couple pitchers go for a lot more than they should have. The White Sox get rid of Fedde, who has been great this year, is like second in WAR in the AL, and Kopech, who can be a very good reliever if he just figures it out. He's got the stuff. And all they get is two 19-year-old prospects who aren't a sure thing, and one guy who's young in the MLB and isn't a sure thing. I just think they could have got way better. But again, the main headliner in this trade for the White Sox is cash considerations. They bring him back for another tenure. It's only like they're
Big.
I think he holds like 10 roster spots on the White Sox at this point. Good for him.
He's about his bread, I guess. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I guess since you talked about the White Sox, I'll talk about some of the Pirates moves as well. They made a couple moves that don't matter for left-handed relievers. They, in the very last, I think, like 20 minutes of the trade deadline, they traded for, I almost said Ellie, Brian De La Cruz from the Marlins. He's a outfielder, played predominantly left field, a little bit of right. I don't really understand why the Pirates are so against moving Brian Reynolds to center field and making this outfield a lot better offensively. I know he's been so great defensively in left field this year, but he played most of his early career in center. So I'm not really sure why the Pirates won't do that and let De La Cruz play his true position in left. But I think they're going to play De La Cruz in right. His batting average is not phenomenal. He's in the 240s. He has hit 18 home runs this year, which would be tied for the most on the Pirates, and I believe tied for second with Brian Reynolds among NL outfielders. They also traded for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa from the Toronto Blue Jays. He is hurt right now. He's supposed to come back this week off the IL, so that should be big. He's been doing a stint in AAA, I believe, with Toronto's AAA affiliate. He's having a phenomenal year. He's known for his defensive course. He can play every single position. He started as a catcher. He's played all the infield. He's played all the outfield. And he's even played pitcher. I think he's played every position but first base. So the Pirates are going to have a lot of versatility there. He's sitting 292 on the year, which is easily his best season. He has an OPS in the 700s. So I like both of those moves a lot. I wanted Brian De La Cruz. Pirates need a right-handed bat that can provide power, especially from the outfield. And then you have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who's going to probably play second base off a rip because Nick Gonzalez hurt his hamstring really, really bad a couple days ago in Arizona. So he's probably going to fill in for him, assuming Nick Gonzalez misses the next probably 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, probably. I would assume he will fill in that spot when Nick Gonzalez comes back is when it gets interesting. You could rock with either, I guess, Michael A. Taylor or Jack Swinsky in center if you want to do that. But then that would mean you kind of have to bench IKF. And if he's hitting 292 and he stays hitting that, I think you have to keep him in the lineup which is why I still think the Pirates should move Brian Reynolds to center, let IKF play right, and let Brian De La Cruz play left. I don't think they're going to do that. We'll see what they do when Nick Gonzalez comes back. That will be very interesting. Also, Key Brian Hayes has been, of course, phenomenal defensively. Not his best year defensively coming off of a gold glove, but he's been really good still. He's just been so bad at the plate that I know a lot of Pirates fans, especially if IKF continues to hit in the 290s, 280s, there's going to be a lot of Buck fans that want to keep Brian Hayes out of the lineup and putting IKF at third for offense. We'll see if that happens. I don't think it will.
Yeah, another team. Well, one team that we saw as sellers was the Detroit Tigers. They did make a few trades. They traded Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers for two prospects. They run Lorenzo and Trey Sweeney. I've seen a couple Detroit fans be upset with this trade, thinking they could have got more for Flaherty. But I've seen a couple fans very happy at this trade. These are two prospects that have a very high ceiling. I think they're pretty close to the MLB. They also traded Andrew Chafin, reliever they've had for a couple years, who's been phenomenal for the Tigers, to the Texas Rangers for two right-handed pitching prospects, Chase Lee and Joseph Montalvo. Just a solid trade. Selling, you're getting rid of some of your top guys. We saw a couple other big trades as well from just other teams. The Braves bring back Jorge Soler. They needed an outfielder. They bring him back. They traded away Tyler Matzik, one of their relievers that has been good for him. He had the big moment in the World Series a couple years ago where he pitched a bunch of fastballs, was able to get out of it. The Dodgers bring back Ahmed Rosario, another super utility man like IKF for right-handed pitching, Michael Flynn. We saw the Rays sell as well. They obviously got rid of a couple of big guys, including Isaac Paredes. He went to the Cubs, which was a shocking team to be buyers, the Chicago Cubs. They traded Christopher Morel, Hunter Biggie, and Ty Johnson. Morel has been phenomenal for the Rays already. I think he's hit home runs in back-to-back games now.
Actually,
For
I didn't
Tampa
see
Bay.
that.
Yep.
He was batting 199 before he got traded though, so I still like the trade. But
yeah. First game though with Tampa Bay, it's a home run. He hit another home run today. He's kind of doing his best. Another massive trade. Jazz Chisholm. And they also traded Randy Arozarena. I'm trying to find the package for that one. They traded him to Seattle, yes, for outfielder Aiden Smith, Brody Hopkins, and one of my favorite parts of baseball trades, players to be named later. He's a very elite player to be named later. We'll see. And the last couple big Rays trade, they made a lot. They traded Zach Eflin, right-handed pitcher. He's been phenomenal for them for a couple years, to the Baltimore Orioles, who boost their starting pitching. They really needed it. Matthew Etzel, Jackson Bowmeister, and Mac Horvath. Orioles are obviously buyers. They're one of the best teams in baseball. And the Rays are kind of sellers, getting rid of some guys, moving on.
Miami, as I spoke about, they traded Brian De La Cruz, of course. They also traded Jazz Chisholm to the Yankees, who hit 4 home runs in his first 2 games. He's been absolutely dominant for them. I really wanted the Pirates to trade for him. Allegedly, the Pirates were second place for him. If that means anything to anyone, doesn't mean shit to me. Also, they traded away. Who did they trade away? They traded away AJ Puck to somebody. I forget. Or no, not AJ Puck. Sorry, Tanner Scott. They traded to the Padres, which is a great get for the Padres, who desperately needed a bullpen arm. You mentioned the Sox getting rid of Eloy. Of course. Is there anything I'm missing? Brewers are taking a chance on Frankie Montes, which is interesting. He was solid for the Reds, division rival. He had like a mid fours ERA, I think, before he got traded. Nothing horrible. Did you mention Rosarena to the Mariners? I don't think we did.
I mentioned it really quickly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not
Well,
deeply.
that's a big get. The Mariners badly needed bats, and they've been phenomenal offensively since they got him. Guardians add Lane Thomas, of course. Astros add Yusei Kikuchi from Toronto. He was not good with the Blue Jays, really. He's a big name, and he was, I guess, viewed as a big name on the deadline, but he just really hasn't been good this year. The Astros need starting pitching, so I understand completely why they made the move. But overall, I don't think he's the big splash that people think he is. But I think that's every notable move. Obviously, we're not going to talk about every single move. But do you have anything else on that?
I had mentioned Zach Eflin. There was one more Orioles trade, I'm pretty sure.
Who did they trade for?
They traded for right-handed pitcher Zach Eflin, and then um,
AJ
I
Puck
swear
went
that,
to the
oh, Trevor.
Diamondbacks, by the way. That's on me. I did meant to mention AJ Puck. He went to the D-backs.
Yeah. The Orioles also traded for Trevor Rogers from the
Right,
Miami.
right.
And the good return Connor Norby, he's supposed to be very good. He'll be in the MLB very quickly for Miami. And outfielder Kyle Stowers. Miami traded a lot of guys. They made the playoffs in 2023, obviously, and I think they only have about 3 or 4 guys from that team still on their roster now, only less than a year later.
Crazy.
But I think they have a pretty good future ahead of them,
Josh
considering all
Bell,
the
too.
trades they made. And yeah, Josh Bell.
Also to the
Yeah.
D-backs. Christian Walker going to be out for a couple of weeks, so I think they wanted just a short-term replacement.
It was a cash considerations trade.
Yes. Sox should have made that trade. He is too big of a salary.
Yeah,
Unless the cash
we would not
considerations
trade
behind
cash
though.
considerations. We have like 10 of them. We're
Yeah.
trying to get to at least 14 cash considerations.
Yeah, at least. But I think that's about it for MLB trade deadline, meaning we can move on to our NFL position group rankings for the this upcoming season and based off last season. Our positions we are not doing quarterback because we already did a whole episode on quarterback where we did top 15 for all 3 of us, so you can go check that out on the channel. That was a few episodes ago, but we are doing running back, receiver, tight end, tack, OT, guard, center, edge, DT, linebacker, corner, center, or safety, sorry, for the position rankings. Do you want to start? You want to start running back?
Yeah,
How do you want to do this? You want to just go 5-5-4-4-3-3-2-2-1-1, or do you just want to rip them off?
I'm fine with going 5-5-4-4-3-3-2.
Okay.
I mean, or we could go the other way because I think we both have the same number 1.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can start the other way then. Yeah, I'm assuming we both have Christian McCaffrey at 1. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. We don't have much we really need to say about that.
It's not even a debate. He had 1,500 yards, 21 total touchdowns.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Best player. MVP candidate as a running back says all it needs to.
Yep. At 2, it's tough with the running backs. After CMC, there's a lot of running backs that I view like the same level. I went with Nick Chubb at 2. I know he's coming off an injury, but as far as talent goes and pure running back goes, it doesn't get much better than Nick Chubb. If he didn't get hurt, he was going to have another fantastic season. I think he has a good year this year if he can, assuming recovery and everything goes great for him. But just how good of a running back he is, I couldn't disrespect him. I gave him number 2.
Yeah, for number 2, I stay at home. I went Jonathan Taylor. When he's healthy, I think he can be the best running back in the NFL. If this Colts line plays like it did last year, he can easily be the best running back again in the NFL like he was in, 2022. Last year in the final game against the Texans, big game. He was finally kind of healthy going into the game, and he had maybe his best game of the year. He was dominating the game, took over. And like Nick Chubb, Christian McCaffrey, and Derrick Henry, there's a couple of guys, like a handful of running backs. I think they can take over the game and completely change the game and win the game as a running back, which is kind of rare in today's NFL. I mean, talking about top 5 running backs, last year was a kind of a rough year for running backs as a whole, just overall. Definitely. It was kind of CMC and then the rest. So I got JT at 2. I think him being fully healthy, playing a whole year, I think he can be the second best running back behind CMC.
Yeah, I got him at 3. I have JT at 3. I think as far as dual threat running backs go, he's one of the most talented in the league. Of course, health is a concern with him, but health is a concern with every running back. It's just the nature of the position at this point. He's dynamic. He has a great O-line in front of him. If they can continue to play through him, I think he's going to have an amazing year statistic-wise, as well as having a quarterback like Anthony Richardson just opens up the game even more for JT. So I have JT at number 3.
Yeah, number 3, I got Derrick Henry. He's just been like the model of consistency. He's been great every year. Last year, 1,167 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, had 4.2 yards per carry. And he's getting older, but he hasn't really shown any sign of slowing down too much. He's very large, obviously. He's been elite. He's going into one of the best positions a running back could be in next to Lamar Jackson. The running back will perform. We haven't seen a good running back next to Lamar Jackson, so I'll be very curious to see how that goes. But I'm excited to see him and Lamar in the backfield together. I think he's going to have another great season.
All right. At 4, I have Saquon Barkley of the Philadelphia Eagles. And this isn't really even just based on the fact that he's going into a system where he's going to absolutely dominate next year, which is the case. But he's just one of the most talented, not even just running back players in the NFL. He's dealt with a ton of injuries and battled back from all of them. He's been behind one of the worst O lines and one of the worst offenses in football his entire career so far. And he's still been very statistically productive, and he's very, very talented in both the pass and run game. I have Saquon at 4. I think he's being a little bit overlooked, and I think he has an opportunity for fantasy owners out there. I think he has the opportunity to be, I guess, not running back 1 because those 1 yard QB fucking snakes are gonna kill him. But
Yeah.
outside of that, oh, hold on, breaking news. Wow. So Jonah Jackson, newly of the Los Angeles Rams, formerly of the Detroit Lions, is missing the preseason with a bruised scapula, but he does have a chance to start the regular season, game one.
I mean, I thought it was bigger than Jonah Jackson there for a second.
Well, I mean,
It's a good player.
He's one of the better guards.
Hmm.
Where were we? I said Saquon 4.
Yeah. At 4, I have Nick Chubb. Every reason you said exactly. He's maybe the best pure running back in the NFL. He's rushed for 1,000 yards in 4 consecutive seasons. He's had 40 touchdowns in that time. The only thing holding him back from being number 2 for me is the injury. We've seen him come back from an injury almost as bad before. If he can do it again, I don't know. I really hope he can because he's just that good. The Browns have that good of an offensive line for him. The offense would probably be centered around him again. I hope he's able to come back and be as good. He could be the second best running back. He could be the best just pure runner in the NFL, but the injury is what scares me from putting him higher.
There's a lot of names on this list that I'm going to be unbiased for. This is not going to be one of them. I'm going to put Jahmyr Gibbs at 5. I think out of every single running back in the NFL, I think CMC, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs are the hardest running backs to tackle in open space. So I had to put him there. Before the season, Bijan Robinson was hyped up as one of the best running back prospects ever. He's going to go into the league and he's going to immediately dominate. Bijan was good. Jahmyr Gibbs was better, and he played significantly less snaps earlier on in the year. Gibbs is just as dominant between the tackles as he is in the receiving game. And like I said, when you have a guy like him who's extremely hard to tackle and is a combination of a running back between the tackles and a slot receiver, he's just so dangerous, and he's going to be fucking amazing this year. He's going to be so good. I'm very excited to see it. You could say what you want about him being a product of the system. I don't think that's the case at all. I have Jahmyr Gibbs at 5.
Yeah, this 5 spot was tough for me to rank. There's a lot of guys you can put here. I went with Saquon. All the reasons you said earlier. He's incredibly talented. This is going to be the best offensive line he's probably had in his entire career. He's going to the Eagles. 962 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns last year. 41 catches, 248 receiving yards. Like you said, he's incredibly hard to tackle in open space. He's just the injuries have held him back in recent years. But he came back from that ACL 2 years ago and was phenomenal. I think this is going to be maybe his best season as an NFL player. I don't know. I do have a couple honorable mentions. Obviously, it was between Saquon, Bijan, and Gibbs for this 5th spot. But Breece Hall's there. Josh Jacobs has been phenomenal recently. But Saquon gets that 5 spot for me.
For what it's worth, if this was top 6, Derrick Henry would have been 6 for me.
Yeah.
But he's just getting older. We can move on to receiver. There's some of these lists where I think it makes more sense for us to start at 5, but running back definitely starts at 1. Receiver, I think we should probably start at 1 as well.
Yeah.
Assuming we both have Justin Jefferson at 1.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who his quarterback is. He might be down in production this year because of bad quarterback play, and I think he's going lower in fantasy drafts because of that. But let's not kid ourselves. He's still the best receiver in the league. And honestly, there's a chance we have the exact same top 5 here. But I went with Tyreek at 2. I'm assuming you did as well. He's fastest player in the league, fastest receiver in the league. I don't know if you saw. Did you see who the top 2 speeds in Madden are this year?
What is it, Tyreek and J-Mo?
Yep.
Wow.
Madden loves J-Mo. Madden loves J-Mo, though.
Hey, maybe next year J-Mo will see this top 5 list.
Hopefully.
That'd be something.
Hopefully that doesn't mean Amon Ra got hurt. But,
yeah.
But yeah, I got Tyreek. Obviously, he just has game-wrecking speed. He's getting older, and every year it doesn't matter if I mean, people sit here and slander the fuck out of Tua, and a lot of it I agree is worthy. And everybody said when he got traded to the Dolphins, oh, Tua doesn't have a strong enough arm. He's not going to be able to do what Mahomes did with Tyreek. We're not going to see the production. And we still see the production when you have a guy who you can just give the ball to on a slant or a drag and he can go get you 30, 40 yards. You just can't replicate that. And after I think there was maybe a year or two where people were starting to fall off on Tyreek a bit. Like people weren't giving him as much credit in the top few conversations, especially when Chase got into the league. And of course, Justin Jefferson started really dominating. But I think we're back to a point where everyone can agree you cannot have Tyreek outside of your top three.
100%. 1,800 yards basically last year, 13 touchdowns. Was on pace to break the receiving yards records, I think, until he got hurt.
Yeah.
He's impossible to keep up with. Basically impossible to just guard. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He got to a pay basically.
Yeah. Him and Jalen Waddle did.
Yeah, he's
And
just that
McDaniel.
good. You can't deny how good Tyreek Hill is.
I guess this is where our list could change a little bit. I have Chase at three. It's close between 3 and 4 and five for me. But I have Chase at three. I still think he's one of the most physically dominant, coupled with his speed receivers in the league. Him and Justin Jefferson are, of course, similar, uh, except for the fact that I think Justin Jefferson's just better than him. But regardless, he has the burner speed that all of the top speed guys in the league have, but he also has the go up and get it ability. He's also a very elite route runner. And yes, of course, he has been in an offense that has had many other options, and he's still going to have T. Higgins. The run game isn't probably going to be there as much for the Bengals, which should be interesting to see how that affects his production. Does he get the ball more? Does he get the ball less because they're just predicting pass more? That will be interesting. But regardless, as of now, I still have Jamar Chase in my top three. But I mean, that could definitely change this year.
I have Jamar Chase at 3 as well. Just like Justin Jefferson, stats wise, Justin Jefferson dealt with injuries and lost his quarterback. Jamar Chase lost his quarterback last season. He wasn't as good without him. Still put up 1,200 yards, 100 catches, 7 touchdowns. Was still phenomenal even without his quarterback, Joe Burrow, who he's been with since college. I think it's hard to put him outside the top 3. Number 4, I think we'll have the same player, but I feel like he's more talented than the player at number 4, and that's why I put him above him.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel too. With CD Lamb, I think there's the argument of CD Lamb had a better statistics season last year. Of course, you definitely have to look into account of what are the other options. He was the gap between CD Lamb and the other options on the Cowboys last year is a lot bigger than the gap of Jamar Chase and Tyreek Hill than their other options. Maybe not
And
as big for
quarterback
Jefferson, but yeah, and quarterback play, of course. So I think you have to grade it on a curve for that. But CD Lamb still, of course, an amazing receiver, a guaranteed wide receiver one, just got paid. He did just get paid, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he did just get paid. Yeah, definitely well deserved. He is also single handedly keeping Dak's reputation high.
Yeah.
But regardless, he was phenomenal last year. His best statistical season by a mile. He's a receiver that you could run on the outside. He's going to be able to burn guys. He's going to be able to go up and get it over guys, and he just beats other cornerback ones on a consistent basis. So I have CD Lamb at 4.
Yeah, I have him at 4. I think he was the best receiver last season.
I agree with that.
135 catches, 1,749 yards. He was phenomenal. He had a 92-yard touchdown. I know that might hurt your feelings a little bit. 12 total touchdowns. He was phenomenal. Statistic-wise, like I said, he was the best receiver. You said it. He kept Dak going last season. I think it's pretty hard to argue outside of this top 4. I think this is pretty set in stone. I feel like this would be a lot of people's top 4 here.
Yeah, and a 5 I have him on round, of course. Easily a top 5 receiver for me. Some of the best hands in the league. I found a stat that he's dropped just 3.1% of catchable targets. I mean, that's just a ridiculous stat. He, of course, can play. People call him a slot merchant, slant merchant, whatever you want to call him. He's the best route running slot receiver in the NFL. That is not a debate for me. Not even close, honestly. He is reliable. He is the reception god. He might not go down there and burn a guy for 80 yards. You're not going to see what you see from Justin Jefferson and from Tyreek Hill and from Jamar Chase and from CeeDee Lamb. You're not going to see that from Amon-Ra. He's just a different player, but he's reliable. He'll play every snap, and he's going to be open multiple times a game where he gets 10 catches, and it's not something that we gawk over. It's just It's Amon-Ra. He got 10 catches. He was open 15 times probably. And of course, this is going to be a big year for him because of just all the slander that not all right, maybe all the slander is a bad way to put it, but people are talking about the Lions' biggest weakness being in the receiver core after Amon Ra, which I get. He's still going to have other guys to take away the pressure. The run game is going to be fantastic with both Gibbs and Monty. The pass game is going to be good. You're going to have Laporta. JMO should be taking a big step this year. And then, of course, you have Amon Ra. But regardless, he's going to continue to put up amazing stats. And even if he has better stats than all the four guys I just named before him, most people are probably going to put those four guys before him just because they are flashier. And maybe you want to watch a guy go burn somebody for 80 yards every play. I understand that. But as far as a reliable receiver that I want on my team, there's not a team in the NFL that wouldn't want Amon-Ra on their team.
Yeah, 100%. This 5 spot was really tough for me to pick. There's a lot of guys, but I just think Amon-Ra has been more consistent than the other 4 that I was really looking at, especially last year. I mean, 119 catches, 1,515 yards. He had 10 touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 1. He kept Jared Goff going. Him and Laporta really, but he kept Jared Goff looking. He got Jared Goff paid. I think he was a top 5 receiver last year, and I think he'll continue to be a top 5 receiver in the future. Like you said about his hands, they've been phenomenal. It was 3.1%. That's very good. I just think he's been more consistent than the other 4 I have in honorable mentions. I had AJ Brown, who went off for a 4-week stretch last year where he looked like the best receiver in the NFL, was chasing Calvin Johnson's records. But after that, he really slowed down. Devontae Adams, I love him. I think he's the best route runner in the NFL, but he's getting older. He's going down. He doesn't have as good of quarterback play as any of these other top 5 will have. And then I have the 2 Rams receivers, Kupp and Puka. I think they just kind of hurt each other's ceilings a little bit, but I think those are 2 fantastic receivers. And we'll talk about the Rams in the previews, but they're going to be good.
Yeah, my other people I had considering honestly, I wasn't really considering anybody else for this top 5. I had my top 5. I just had to figure out the order really, but Devontae would be right outside it. AJ Brown would be right outside it, and then after them, probably Debo for me.
Yeah,
but
Debo too, and Ayuk maybe.
Yeah, I still view Debo higher than Ayuk, even though I've seen some lists out there that have Ayuk higher for some reason. But all right, let's move on to the what are we doing next? Tight end. Okay. Starting with tight end. Do you want to? We could just start from 1 again, I guess. Or no, we could start from 5 because this one I guess could be debatable at the top.
Yeah.
5, I got Hawk. That was at the edge for me. Of course, I'm still a little salty about the shit that he said. But regardless, I have Hawk at 5. He was dominant for Kirk Cousins in that 8-game stretch that you guys like to base this entire career off of. He was dominant for that stretch. He was really good with the backup quarterbacks as well. He's a good blocking tight end. He's not phenomenal. But his hands, he's basically a receiver out there. He's going to be the second option that takes the pressure off Justin Jefferson all year this year. He's going to be a good safety valve for whoever they run out there, whether it's Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. I think he's making a ton of money, but I think he's for sure in that upper echelon of tight ends. So I have him at 5 here.
Yeah, I actually also have him at 5 as well. There's a lot of guys on there's a couple guys on this list who have dealt with injuries. He's one of them. He could have been top 3 on this list if he wasn't for that injury in the season. But that took him out. I think I saw that he will miss the start of the season. I think he's on the PUP list right now. Could join the team about a quarter of the way through the season. He was having a stellar season last year. Him and Kirk, like you said, were phenomenal together. He was looking very good, but there's no Kirk there anymore. It's between J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold, so the quarterback play is going to fall off. He has to share it with Justin Jefferson a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot. I just think he's going to fall down on production without Kirk, obviously, and the other 4 guys on this list I think are better, but I think he's easily a top 5 tight end.
Yeah, at 4, I got Mark Andrews. I think a lot of his statistical prowess is due to the fact that there was many years where it was legitimately just him and the Ravens running game completely controlling this offense. They have a lot more weapons now from the receiving core. He did miss a lot of last year due to injury, and he has dealt with injuries before, as we've seen. But he's still a great tight end. He's a great blocking tight end. He seems to always be open in the end zone for Lamar, and I think that's just being able to get open inside the 20-yard line is just a skill that is not, I feel like, looked at enough. We saw guys like just when I think of a guy that doesn't score touchdowns but gets a ton of yards, I think of Julio for that stretch in Atlanta. Andrews is the opposite of that. He or not really the opposite because he gets a lot of yards too, but he's able to score at a high clip in the end zone. That's something I value very high, and it's a very close race between these top four tight ends for me. But I have him coming up just short of the top three here at four.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I have Mark Andrews at 4. I feel like I remember him having a very, very good season last year, but I went and looked at the stats. I wasn't as impressed. He did have 544 yards and 6 touchdowns in 9 games, I guess, which is pretty good. He did have the MVP throwing the ball to him, but he is an elite tight end. Like you said, he's a great blocker. He's a safety valve for Lamar Jackson. He's been with Lamar's whole career, and he's been very solid for him every year. He's been very consistent. He's been consistent at getting injured too, I guess, but if he could stay healthy, he would easily have a top 4 statistical season. But I think talent wise, he's definitely top 4.
This is it gets really tough for me here. It's a very, very close race between 2 and 3 for me, but at 3, I'm going with Sam Laporta. Had a dominant rookie year, maybe the best rookie year from a tight end we've ever seen. Last year with the Lions, Jared Goff's best friend, really. He is another guy like Mark Andrews who is always open in the end zone. He had a ton of touchdowns last year, of course, a ton of yards. His ability to catch a ball and be able to break 3, 4 tackles and take a 5 yard pass into a 25 yard pass is just invaluable. You can't even describe how important he is to this Lions offense. He's always there. He's a phenomenal route runner. He's another guy that a lot of people viewed as he's kind of just like a really big receiver. He plays sometimes he's in the slot for the Lions. He does everything. Sam Laporta, he's just so young. And one of the guys above him, obviously, I put him there for blocking prowess. And then of course we have maybe the GOAT. But he's so young. I could see Laporta being 2 or 1 on this list if we do this again 365 days from now. But right now, I have Sam Laporta as my third best tight end in the NFL.
Yeah, I do as well. I thought you were gonna have him at 2, but I got
consider
Laporta
it.
at 3. I did as well. 889 yards last year, 10 touchdowns. I think he might have led tight ends in touchdowns last season. Had maybe the best rookie season by a tight end of all time. He was phenomenal. 889 receiving yards, 86 receptions. Like you said, he was the safety valve for Jared Goff. Very consistent all year. Never really took a game off. Was consistently in like double-digit targets, especially in the playoffs. NFC Championship, NFC Championship. Man, sorry, 13 targets in the NFC Championship, 11 in the divisional round.
Playing with a fucking knee that was snapped in half, basically.
Yeah, and yeah, he had that massive tape on his knee. He's phenomenal, very talented, and I agree. I think next year he could even make the jump all the way to 1. So it'll be interesting.
I agree. 2, I have Kittle. Like I said, I put him here because not only is he a fantastic receiving tight end, but he's the maybe the best blocking tight end in the NFL. He is absolutely phenomenal. He doesn't always have the highest producing seasons, especially with the past few years. This San Francisco offense has been so talented. And at the end of the day, I think it's just simply Jimmy Garoppolo just likes throwing to his tight ends more than Brock Purdy does. I think that's just simply what it comes to. Brock Purdy likes to be able to have his best running back in the league run the ball a ton of times, and he likes to have his 2 top 10 receivers catch short routes and run for big gains. Can't really blame him when you have that much talent. So sometimes his top 2 tight end gets a little bit ignored, but then you'll see him go out there and Kittle will have a game where he has 2 touchdowns and 130 yards, and you're like, damn, this guy's doing this and contributing to our best run blocking in the NFL. His value's there. You can't overlook Kittle because he doesn't have the best receiving stats of all the tight ends, but Kittle is my second best tight end.
Yeah, I got Kittle as well. He might have fallen down production wise a little bit, given all the talent in his offense and a little bit of a different scheme. But I mean, he still had 1,020 yards last year, 6 touchdowns on 65 catches. He was phenomenal. And that's not even his best trait, really. It's, like you said, his blocking is phenomenal. He can completely just change a running scheme by helping the offensive line that much. He's an elite talent. He's fun to watch as well. Phenomenal player. He's just not the GOAT, like you said.
Yeah, not much to say here. Kelsey's 1. People are saying he's getting old. People are saying he's falling off. He's still going to be the best tight end in the NFL next year. If he can stay healthy, he's going to have the best stats. of course, Mahomes loves him. He is a safety valve for Mahomes, but he's also a wide receiver one for Mahomes. Really, I mean, what can you say? At the end of the day, it's Travis Kelsey. Anybody who's saying that he's falling off is crazy. If he falls off, it's going to be because he gets hurt and he misses a lot of time. It's not going to be because he's in there and not producing.
Yeah, I was trying to look up the playoff stats for Travis Kelsey. I don't have him here, but he had a down season, a regular season last year, especially later in the year. Didn't really have much going for him. It looked like he was getting too old. Maybe he was going to retire at the end of the season. And then all of a sudden the playoffs begin, and him and Mahomes look like prime Brady and Gronk. He's phenomenal in the playoffs. There's really not much else to say. He's the best tight end. They got rid of Tyreek Hill, and they thought maybe this offense would fall off, and he took just another step forward and showed that he's the best tight end in the NFL right now, and maybe of all time. He's the go-to guy. He's phenomenal.
All right, moving on here to tackle rankings. We'll start at 5 for this one as well. I have Jordan Mailata from the Eagles. He is now probably their best offensive lineman. Him and Lane Johnson. Now that Jason Kelsey has retired, he's been great for them and leading what was the number one offensive line for many, many years. Jalen Hurts has benefited off him and Lane Johnson more than people ever talk about in his career. He's had basically his whole career with the best offensive line in the league. In theory, you would assume you have the best offensive line in the league your whole career, and you have two phenomenal receivers and a great running game. You would assume he would have the best stats of any quarterback alive. That is not the case, but that's more my problem with Jordan Hurts, with Jalen Hurts than anybody else. Regardless, Jordan Mailata is a top 5 tackle in this league. He had a bit of a step down last year, but that's just because he had such a good year the year before. I have Mailata at 5.
Yeah, I was between Mailata was my first out in the honorable mentions, but I went with Christian Darrisaw at 5 actually. He had a big step up last year in his second season. He was okay as a rookie, phenomenal last year. Only allowed 23 pressures on 612 blocking snaps. He didn't make the Pro Bowl. I mean, tackle in the NFC is very, very good.
Yeah.
I think he just got paid as well. I think he's very good. I think he's only going to continue to get better. He's in his third season. I think he's going to continue to develop into one of the best offensive linemen and just continue to get better in run blocking and pass blocking. So I have him at 5.
Yeah, you said it. I have Darrisaw at 4. He had a better 2022 than he did 2023, but his 2023 was still pretty good. He did miss some time in 2023 for the Vikings. He still had a top 3 passing offensive tackle grade in the NFL. He's going to be a big part of whoever plays quarterback for this Vikings team. Being able to block from the outside especially if it's JJ McCarthy as a rookie, it's very important to have a guy like him on your O line who can protect you. I think Darrisaw is pretty underrated. I think this Vikings O line becomes overrated because of him, but as a player, I think he is underrated. He's great in the run game from the tackle spot. Of course, he's phenomenal in the pass game. I have Darrisaw at 4.
Yeah, at 4, I have Tristan Wirfs from the Buccaneers. Only 6 pressures last season, which was the lowest among offensive tackles that had at least 500 snaps. He was phenomenal. Maybe the best season of his career. Helped that Buccaneers offense be as good as they were. He had been great in 2021 when they won the Super Bowl. I think in 2022 he was dealing with a lot of injuries, especially to his ankle, so it slowed him down a little bit. But he was able to come back last season. He was phenomenal. Phenomenal pass blocker. I have him at 4 for the Buccaneers.
I have Wirfs at 3 for the Buccaneers. He had the second best season, I believe, among all offensive tackles in the passing department. He has a top 5 overall tackle grade for the first time in his career. Last year, he was, I believe, in his 3rd season, or maybe he's going into his 4th season now. I don't quite remember. But he's been phenomenal for the Bucks. He's been very consistent. He was great for Tom Brady. This O-line had a ton of scrambling. He stayed put. He moved over from right to left, but he stayed put on this line, and he continued to produce from both sides. It's just with the amount of offensive line injuries we see in the league, any guy that can move from right to left or from left to right and be able to produce just as well is just so valuable. And for that reason, I have Wirfs at 3.
Yeah, 3 for me. I have Lane Johnson. He is getting older. He was dealing with a lot of injuries last season, but he still hasn't given up a sack since 2020. He's been phenomenal. He's phenomenal in the pass and the run. When the Eagles decide to run a lot, he can absolutely dominate the right side. And when they decide to pass, he's able to, like, he hasn't given up sacks since 2020. He can hold the right side, and if they want to take a deep shot to Devontae Smith. I think he's going to continue to be an elite right tackle. He's maybe the best right tackle in the past 10 years. He's been phenomenal. He's been in the NFL for 11 years now, so he's just been great.
Yep, at two, I have Trent Williams. He is the best pass and run block combined tackle in the league. He's been that for a long, long time now. Uh, I can't say enough about Trent Williams. We saw when he went out last year for the Niners how big of a difference that made. I know Debo also went out at that time, but still, he is like he's the heart and soul of this Niners team. He can do everything. You just see him out in space, and he's just an absolute game wrecker. And in an era where there's not a ton of absolute game wreckers from the offensive line position, him and the guy I have above him are that. So I have him at two.
Yeah, at two, I have Penei Sewell. He was phenomenal. He's helped turn this Detroit Lions offense around, especially in the run game. Maybe the best. I can't say he's the best. That's right tackle running.
He's the best run blocking tackle in the league by a mile. It's not
It's
he's better
close.
than Trent Williams
It's
at run
close.
blocking.
It's close. His pass blocking can get better, but he's still been very good. He's been phenomenal for the Lions. Yeah, he's very young, just got paid as well. I think he's the second best right tackle. I think it's just hard to put him above number one guy.
Yeah, of course I have Panay at one. It's not really a debate for me at all. In my opinion, he's easily the best run blocking tackle in the league. Like you said, if there's an area he can improve, it's pass blocking, but he's also only given up like one sack in like a million snaps. So some of the stuff that I was looking up when I was prepping for this, they had his pass blocking grade low. I don't really understand what that's based off of because he really hasn't done anything wrong in his like, career, basically. So I don't really know what that's based off of, but regardless, I have Panay. He just got signed to a massive deal. He is part of the best offensive line in the league with the Lions, and he's just going to continue to build off that. And that gap between the Lions and the next team is just going to continue to grow as the season goes on.
Yeah, I didn't mention with Sewell as well. He can also get some catches to help your team win.
Yes, and he's also a guy that he hasn't had to move much at all because there hasn't been an insane amount of injuries at the tackle position. Decker, knock on wood, has been fairly healthy, but he can move over if he needs to. He has in his career. So
yeah, number one, I did Trent Williams. He's been kind of the go-to guy at tackle for the last couple of years, especially. He's been phenomenal on the Niners. He had struggled with injuries a lot last season, but he still was phenomenal. I hate to bring up PFF stats, but 92.5 PFF grade was second among offensive tackles, and he was the only player at the position to earn a run blocking and pass blocking grade above 84. He's phenomenal. He's kind of the gold standard of the position, so I got Trent Williams at one.
do you know if this Nadal doubles is a replay?
It's
got to be a replay, right? It was
I
live.
think it's got to be a replay because they played yesterday. I'm pretty sure.
Him and
Alcaraz.
Alcaraz, yeah. Anyways, so moving on here. By the way, Team USA did win. That's why this is on. They beat South Sudan. They are 2-0, and they're the only undefeated team in their group, and they play 0-2 Puerto Rico. So they're definitely going to win their group. But moving on here to guard. For guard at 5, I have Sam Cosmi of the Washington Commanders, kind of a pretty low-key name that had a phenomenal year last year. He was great in, as you just mentioned, PFF grade this year. He spent a lot, I believe he was like a right tackle in his career at one point, but now he's a guard. And he's been great for the Commanders. He was the only good offensive lineman on the Commanders last year, which is a reason why I'm sure his stats don't look phenomenal if you look at, oh, wow, he was a guard on, even though he was a guard on the worst offensive line in the league. He was, but when that offensive line gets better, he's going to shine more. And I think when we look in a few years from now, we're going to see him as one of the premier names at the guard position. So I have Cosmi at 5.
Yeah, at 5, I have Tyler Smith, from the Cowboys. He's been one of the only good Cowboys on their offensive line with the run game. It's unfortunate some of the others have fallen down. he hasn't been as good in the past, but in the run, he's been very good. It was only his second season, I think, last year. I think he's just going to continue to get better. Maybe it's just Cowboys bias, but I have Tyler Smith at 5.
At 4, I have Kevin Zeitler, newly of the Detroit Lions, replacing Jonah Jackson, who we just spoke of, who is now on the Rams. He's been one of just the best pass blocking guards in the past decade or so. And I think he's going to continue that. He made his first Pro Bowl last year, which Pro Bowl is whatever, but that was pretty shocking to me. I thought he had at least made one Pro Bowl in his career. But no, last year was his first Pro Bowl. He's a veteran. He's filling in, and he's going to have a lot of support around him. Oh, look, Rory's at the Olympics. He's going to have a lot of support around him on this Detroit Lions offensive line. He has to fill the shoes of another great guard in Jackson, but I think he's going to do that. The run blocking will be good, especially when you get to play between Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell. It's a pretty easy job. So give me Zeitler at 4.
At 4, I have Chris Lindstrom from the Falcons. He could definitely be higher. He's been great for them. Maybe their best. Well, he has been their best offensive lineman.
Easily. They have a good O-line, though.
They do have a great O-line. We talked about that last year about how good their O-line was.
Yeah. And that ended up being accurate.
Yeah. All pro honors in back-to-back years. In the run game, he's been phenomenal. Really helps Algier and Bijan. 78.6 pass blocking grade in 2023, and he only allowed 15 total pressures as a guard. He's great in the run, great in the pass. I have him at 4. He's very good.
All right. I have at 3, I have Tyler Smith, who you had at 5 of the Cowboys. He had a phenomenal year last year for the Cowboys. He played 2022 at left tackle because he was replacing Tyron Smith. But he is a guard now. He had what was he, second team? Yeah, he was second team All Pro last year, and he allowed just 2.8% pressure rate, which is top 5 for guards. So he was phenomenal last year. Cowboys just seem to pump out great offensive linemen. They're not always able to piece them all together, but of course, we see guys like Zach Martin, who has kind of gone down a little bit in his career as of recent. You have guys like Tyler Smith who have gone up. They can't always time out their offensive linemen's primes at the same time, but they sure as hell always have a guy coming up who's a beast, and Tyler Smith is that right now. So I have him at 3.
Yeah, at 3, I have Quentin Nelson. I love him. Great pick. He's been very good in the run.
That's on me. I'm going to have to redo my list. I completely forgot about Quentin Nelson.
No, I mean, there's a lot of people who have him outside their top 5, so I mean,
I would definitely have him in my top 5, though.
Yeah, I have him in my top 5 highest paid guard in the NFL. Struggled in 2022 a little bit. That was his worst season of his career, but he bounced back last year in 2023. Was very good. He's great in the run game. He's great in the pass game. He'll have bad moments in the pass game, but he really never has a bad moment in the run game. He's helped his offensive line completely turn around. Was a leader again last year, him and Ryan Kelly. They've really helped the run game. We saw Zach Moss was phenomenal last year when he was playing, and when Jonathan Taylor came in, he was phenomenal. It was his highest mark since 2020 last year in the PFF grade. I think he was 70.8, which was lower than I would expect, but he's phenomenal. I think he was a Pro Bowler again. I think he's going to work his way up and continue to get better and solidify himself in the top 3, top 2 this year.
I knew I was going to forget somebody at some point in this list. So here's when it happened. I'm going to update my list because I have to have him in my top 5. So Cosme's out. Zeitler's at 5. Give me Nelson at 4. Tyler Smith stays at 3. And now at 2, I have Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's definitely one of the best guards in the league. He's been an All-Pro multiple times. He's very, very good in the pass blocking game from the guard spot. He's one of, if not the best pass blocking guards in the league, which is crucially important to a team that loves to pass the ball in the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he's going to continue to be one of the best in the league, and I have Thuney at 2.
I have Joe Thuney at 2 as well. He's been phenomenal. Chiefs have 2 great guards, him and Trey Smith. And then they have maybe the best center in the NFL. Their interior offensive lineman is phenomenal. He's been worth every penny. I think they paid him a 5-year, $80 million deal to take him away from the Chiefs, it looks like. And ever since he's been with them, he's been phenomenal. Like you said, he's maybe the best pass blocker as a guard in the NFL. Just a 4.6% pressure rate. in 2023. He's been a good run blocker, not the best, but he's been good enough to survive, and he's just that good at pass blocking. So I have him at number 2.
So that means you have Zeitler at 1 then, right? I have Chris Lindstrom at 1. For me, I know you had him at what, 4 or 5?
Yeah,
Okay,
uh, 4.
4. Okay. Anyways, yeah, he's been a quintessential all pro now. He's going to continue to be that for how many years has he been in the league? I can't like 3, 4. I don't know how many years he's been in the league, but he's just an absolute demon in the run game. He is going to be part of the reason that Bijan, I think, is going to have another great season. I think he's going to really break out this year. He's part of, like we said, one of the best, maybe probably top 5 offensive lines in the league. Maybe we'll probably talk about that more, like you said, in the division previews, which are coming the next few weeks. But I have Lindstrom of the Atlanta Falcons as my best guard in the league.
If I could go back, I'd probably move Lindstrom up, but number 1, I actually had Joel Bitonio of the Browns. He's been very good for a long time, 7 straight years of at least an 80 PFF grade. He was injured a little bit last year, but was still very good. 5.4% pressure rate was allowed. He's been very consistent over his career, first or second team All Pro in 5 consecutive seasons. And he's really led this Browns offensive line to become one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. He's very good. I guess he's their leader at communicating on the offensive line for the Browns. And he's just elite in both run and pass blocking. So I have Batonio, especially run at my number 1 guard.
All right. Moving on to centers. At 5, I have David Andrews of the New England Patriots. He's been great his entire career. He did not have a great pass blocking grade last year, but he was phenomenal in the run game. You have to attribute a lot of that to how bad his surrounding pieces are on offense, not just his offensive line, but his offense in general. I think if David Andrews was a center on a better team with a better offensive line, he would be viewed a lot better overall. But I have Andrew slotting in here at 5, just barely making the top 5 for centers.
Yeah, this 5 spot was tough. I considered Andrews, but I had Eric McCoy at 5 of the New Orleans Saints. Struggled in 2021 and 2022, but he was great last year. He was phenomenal in the run game, struggled a little bit in the pass game, but I think if he continues to stay healthy, his pass blocking numbers will go up. I think his run blocking numbers will, I don't know if they can really go up. I think he was the 3rd best run blocker at his position, so I think Eric McCoy is going to continue to get better with the Saints.
Okay, at 4, I have your boy Ryan Kelly. He had his best pass blocking game season since his rookie year. Last year, allowed just 7 pressures in the regular season, which is the fewest among centers. He was a Pro Bowler last year, and I think he is a victim of maybe the Colts offensive line just having a complete shit season 2 years ago. But I still think he's a pretty good center at a position where it's I don't know. I think there's a top 3, and I think outside of the top 3, it's pretty debatable, pretty cloudy. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. I have Kelly because of how good of a season he had in the pass blocking game last year at 4.
Yeah, I went back and forth with 3 and 4, but I let personal bias in. Maybe I didn't. I had Tyler Linderbaum at 4. He's been phenomenal with the Ravens. His rookie season, he was okay, but it was very good his rookie season. But last season, he was better, and I only expect him to continue to get better. I think next season he could be in the top 2 conversation, if not definitely 3. Got way better in pass blocking last season. We saw the Ravens offense switch from more running to more passing, and he got better at that. Did not allow a single sack in 2023, only 15 pressures. He stayed phenomenal in the run game. But 3 and 4, I feel like are interchangeable for me, but I have Linderbaum at 4.
Okay. At 3, I have Linderbaum, just because of from his first year to his rookie year, how great of a jump he made in the pass blocking game. He was still a good run blocker his rookie year and his sophomore season, but he was just so much better in the pass blocking game his second year, which comes with time, especially from the inside of the offensive line. He allowed just 15 pressures without a sack in 2023. I think he is going to be one of him and Panay and who else is like the top offensive line young talent? Slater. There's a lot of young offensive linemen that are have potential to be the best at their position very very soon. Linderbaum is one of them, especially with the top two, or I guess one of the top two centers is now getting a little bit up there in age. But regardless, Linderbaum's fantastic. He has a chance to be the best center in the league very soon.
Yeah, three, I have Ryan Kelly. Fourth Pro Bowl of his career last year. Had maybe his best season as a pro last season. He's always been very, very good in the run game, but he got his pass blocking grade back to what it was early in his career. He'd struggled in the pass blocking game in recent years, figured that out, and was just phenomenal last season. Was never an issue. He was part of that close offensive line that had struggled and then got a lot better, and he was probably the main cause of their big jump from 2022 to 2023. I think he's going to have another great season and just continue to be very good.
All right. At number two, I have another Chiefs O lineman at two. I have Creed Humphrey. He was absolutely phenomenal in 2023 and has been just 16 pressures in 2023. When I was looking up just what some other people had as their consensus rankings before we were making these lists, I saw like people saying that he's a consensus number one center. I don't know if I really agree with that. To me, it was Kelsey and who I have at number one have been top two for a while, but I guess people are saying Creed Humphrey has made the jump. Regardless, he has a very solid pass grade. He is a probably the best run blocker on the Chiefs as well, and he's just a well-rounded center that I have slotted in here at number two.
Yeah, at number two, I have Frank Ragnow of the Detroit Lions. I think the top two is interchangeable, but I think they are the top two in the NFL right now, without a doubt. He's finally been fully healthy the past 2 years. He's been phenomenal in the run game as always. He's maybe I think he's the best run blocking center in the NFL right now.
Easily,
And yeah, and he's been very good in pass blocking as well. I think it's impossible to put him outside of the top two. So I got Frank Ragnow at top two, and I'll let you give your reasoning for why he's number one.
Yeah, I mean, you basically gave it for your reasoning it too. I mean, he's the best run blocking center in the league. He had a career high PFF grade of 88.1 last year. For a veteran in Ragnow, that's just super impressive. He's getting better with age. He has, knock on wood, been pretty healthy over the past few seasons for somebody of his age and stature. I love Frank Ragnow. For me, it has been him and Kelsey for many years. And once Kelsey was gonna call it a career, he got one. There's no way in hell I could not put him at one. Give me Ragnow as the best center in the NFL.
Yeah, at number one, I have Creed Humphrey. For every reason you kind of named, he's continued to just get better. He's part of that Chiefs offensive line that's one of the best in the league, especially on the interior. I think it could still be Jason Kelsey if he was still playing, but Creed Humphrey I have at number one. Just 16 pressures. I think you said that. He was phenomenal last season. He's still very young as well. I think he's just going to continue to get better and be number one for a long time. Him and Linderbaum fighting for number one for a long time.
Okay, so that does it for our offensive positions. I do want to say I did just scroll up and notice that I did pick a line for all six offensive positions, but like I said, I am going to be biased at some points and going to be biased at other points. So we will see. First at edge for defense at 5, I have Max Crosby of the Raiders. He has just been absolutely dominant. He's impossible to block from the edge spot. I feel like he gets kind of overlooked because is it fair to say this is the deepest position on here? Probably, right?
It could
At a
be.
receiver, I guess.
Yeah, I think receiver was kind of deep. Yeah, I'd say it could be the deepest.
It's definitely up there. But
Yeah,
regardless, his pass rush win rate was 15%. He had 94 QB pressures last year, which is just absolutely dominant. I think that's in the top 2 or 3. I know my boy had 101, but regardless, Crosby I have at number 5 in just a super super deep position.
yeah. It's either this or this is definitely the deepest defensive position. I have Nick Bosa at 5. Crazy to put him at 5. He's phenomenal in both the pass and the run. I just think last year he had sort of a down year, only 10 and a half sacks. But in 2022, he did have 18 and a half, and that led the entire NFL. He's very good. He's the anchor for that 49ers defense. Um, I have him at number five. I think number four might be more. I think four and five are interchangeable.
Yeah. Honestly, 1 through 5 are interchangeable for me on this list. But at 4, I have Micah. He is just an absolute freak from the outside. I think the Cowboy hype has gotten a little bit out of control for people saying he's the best or the second best edge in the league. But like I said, all of these guys are interchangeable for me. They're all phenomenal. He had a 93.7 rush grade and a 24.2 pass rusher win rate in 2023, which is just phenomenal stats. He's going to continue to be just unblockable as all of these guys in this top 4 are. But I just think some of the other guys are more well-rounded. So I have Parsons at 4.
Yeah, at four, I have Max Crosby. Every reason you said, he's phenomenal. His sack totals have gone up every season since 2020. He had 14 and a half last year. He's phenomenal against the run, maybe the best run defending edge in the NFL. He's been phenomenal. 1,000 defensive snaps in the last 2 years. He leads the NFL in tackles for loss in the last 2 seasons. I could see him going higher as well. Just another phenomenal player. He's very, very good, and he deserves a depoy before his career's over.
At I almost just ended this in one click, but Nick Bosa, I have at 3. Once again, these guys are all very close to me. Close in rankings to me, not close to me at all. Nick Bosa, he a couple years ago he was really dominant when you said he had that big sack year 2 seasons ago. I believe he was also like one of the best run defending edges in the league that year. And maybe I'm using that year as a little bit too much for his prowess. I still think he's a top 3 edge in this league, and I just think he's a little bit more well-rounded than Parsons and Crosby, which has him barely edging out 3 for me.
Yeah, and I have Parsons at 3. Last year, career high in 14 sacks. That was the 7th most in football. And you had talked about his pass rush win rate. That was the league's highest pass rush win rate, and he faced the highest percentage of double teams in the NFL. He's very, very good. Maybe he has some of the Cowboys hype to him. He definitely does, considering he is one of the best players on the Cowboys, and they always get overhyped. But I view him and CeeDee Lamb similar. They're both just that good at their position, and I have him at number 3.
I'm happy we both didn't do what a lot of these dumbass media people are doing right now, which is disrespecting the fuck out of TJ Watt. TJ Watt, yeah. I have it too. It's absurd where I'm seeing him on some of these lists.
I saw him at like 6 on one of them,
which is just absolutely insane. He's dominant in the pass rush. He wins so many times a game. He led the league in sacks in 2023 at 19. He's just absolutely dominant. He dealt with some injuries last year, but he's still a player that you take him off the Steelers and you could immediately see the difference in the team. You take Nick Bosa off the Niners, you take Micah Parsons off the Cowboys, you take Max Crosby off the Raiders isn't probably a good example, but the other two, you wouldn't see as big of a difference as you see when you take TJ Watt off the field. I'm tired of the disrespect for him. I have TJ Watt at 2. I guess probably Steelers fans are going to find that disrespectful too, but whatever.
Yeah, the reason you said there was kind of the reason I had him at 1, but at 2 I have Myles Garrett. I think Myles Garrett all around as a whole, I think he might be the best defensive edge. He stops the run very good. He's great against the pass, 14 sacks in 3 straight seasons. I just think he's number 2. I just think TJ Watt's slightly better at one thing, but just as good as the second thing. But all around, I think Myles Garrett's the best. He won Defensive Player of the Year last year. He's elite. There's really no flaw in his game. So I have him at 2. I just think number 1, if you take him off his team, they'd be that much worse. And I'll get to it in a minute.
Yeah, the reason I have Garrett at 1 is, 27.3% pass rush win rate. It's just a fucking insane stat. highest in PFF history, just crazy. 94.7 pass rush grade in 2023. You said it, defensive player of the year. He was phenomenal. He is truly the most unblockable player in the NFL statistically. I couldn't not have him at one. Out of this whole list, I knew who my five were going to be, and I knew Myles Garrett was going to be one, two through, and I knew TJ Watt was going to be two, three through five. I was questioning the order. I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to have Garrett at one. I think he's the best defensive player in the NFL.
Yeah, it's tough. I have TJ Watt at one, 19 sacks last year. He's led the NFL in sacks in 3 of the last 4 seasons. He had 19 last, like I said, 96 and a half sacks in the last 7 seasons. He averages about 14 sacks a season. He's elite at getting to the quarterback, and if you take him off the Steelers, they're going to be. We saw it; they struggle, especially in the pass rush. He's that good. He doesn't have as good of a second as Myles Garrett does. I just think he's the best defensive edge in football. I think he deserved the DPOY last year, but him and Myles Garrett, those are the 2 best defensive edges, like you said, by far, in my opinion. Not by far, but easily the 2 best defensive edges in the NFL.
All right, moving on to D tackle here at 5. I have Carolina Panthers Derek Brown. He's been the best interior run defender in the league for his first 2 years. 90.1 PFF run defense grade. He was dominant last year. It's very hard to run the ball against him. If he had any sort of support around him to help with the run game, they could be a dominant run defense. They weren't because everybody around him sucks so bad, but he is so good. I'm shocked that there's not teams like trying to see if they can get their hands on him. Maybe Carolina just has him as untouchable, but I think he is a phenomenal interior defensive lineman. I have Derek Brown at 5. By the way, I forgot to say, the only honorable mention I wrote down on this list was Hutch for edge. But basically, I have that top 5 as the upper echelon. That is my tier 1. Whatever tier 2 is, I have Hutch at the very top of tier 2, but I don't have him in that. I don't think he's better than Max Crosby. Right now, I just can't say that. We'll see in the future. The 101 pressures last year's undeniable.
Yeah. D tackle. This is another position that's pretty kind of pretty deep. I have Derek Brown at 5 as well. Like you said, he's just maybe the best run stopper in the NFL. He's phenomenal there. He's not as good as a pass rusher, but he can hold his own. He doesn't have much help around him, like you said. He only had 2 sacks last year, but 15 quarterback hits. He was a Pro Bowler. He could stop the run better than almost anyone in the NFL, and he doesn't have much help. This Panthers defense was kind of a bright spot for him. They were better than people anticipated, and maybe the only good thing they had. 53 defensive stops last season alone. That was 10 more than any other interior player. I have him at number 5.
All right. At number 4, I have Quinnen Williams. He was really, really, really good last year. He's really starting to put it together. He didn't have the hottest start to his NFL career, but he's been really, really good. He has 122 pressures in the last 2 seasons from the D tackle spot, which is just amazing to see. He's a great pass rusher. He's a good enough run defender from the inside. I think Quinnen Williams is going to be a very integral part to this Jets defense, especially with now he gets to pair with a guy like Hassan Reddick on the line with him. Should be very, very interesting. I have Quinnen Williams at 4.
I also have Quinnen Williams at 4. I think he's very good. We saw in 2022 he kind of really popped off, 12 sacks. Continued that last season. He only had 5 sacks in 17 games, but 122 pressures in the last 2 seasons. He's been phenomenal. 74 defensive stops over that time as well. Only Dexter Lawrence and Chris Jones have more total pressures than his 122 in the past 2 seasons. He's one of the leaders of this Jets defense, and he's just phenomenal.
All right. At 3, I have Defoe DeForest Buckner. He's dominant. You can move him everywhere. He's very versatile. He's great in the run game. He's phenomenal in the pass game. He was in San Francisco. He is now in Indianapolis. One of the more underrated defensive linemen in the league. I think he's going to continue to be a game wrecker for the Colts in every facet. And he's an O lineman coach's worst nightmare. So give me DeForest Buckner at 3.
Yeah, I went back and forth with 3 and 2, but I put Dexter Lawrence at 3. He's been phenomenal for the Giants, one of their bright spots on the defensive side. Lined up as a nose tackle. He has 81 total pressures over the past 2 seasons. No other player has more than 16. He's been phenomenal for this Giants defense. I have him at number 3. Um, he's very good against the pass, like I just said, and he's also phenomenal against the run as well. So he's elite.
Yep. For every reason you just said, I have him at 2. He's been great from wherever they have put him, whether it's nose tackle or he's lined up off. He's still phenomenal. He has really had a research. Him and Quinn Williams have really just completely turned it around. I would not say both of those guys were probably top 4 D tackles like a year or so ago, but they both had phenomenal seasons last year, and we're taking into account last year and going into this year. For that reason, I think he's going to be I don't know. I don't even think it's a hot take to say he's probably the best player on the Giants. I mean, he is the best player on the Giants.
Yeah.
I think there maybe is a chance he gets dealt at the deadline or something because he's going to be so good on a team that's probably going to be so bad. But I have Dexter Lawrence at 2 because it's pretty obvious who's going to be at 1.
Yeah, at 2, I have DeForest Buckner. He's just phenomenal. He's one of the best all-around defensive tackles in the NFL. He's phenomenal against the pass. He's phenomenal against the run. He had 81 tackles last year. That was a career best. 8 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 21 quarterback hits. And there's a lot of times, even in the run game, where he's phenomenal against the run, but we also have Grover Stewart, or the Colts do, who's phenomenal against the run, and he's right there with him in the backfield early for a tackle for loss that he just doesn't get. Pro Bowler, he's phenomenal. He's very long. He's can alter the quarterback's pass, going for swats. He totaled more than 50 pressures in each of the past 2 seasons. 90 defensive stops to go along with them. He's phenomenal, and like you said, he's a coach's worst nightmare to have to go against, and he's just that good in both games.
Yep. Give me Chris Jones at 1, though. He got paid a ton of money for a reason. He's easily the best D tackle in the game. The only competition to him was Aaron Donald, who is now retired. He's great from the pass rush. He's obviously a dominant defender. He's a guy that you can put in at D tackle, and you know you're going to get your good run defense, but you're also expecting to get multiple sacks from him, which is not something in today's NFL that you really anticipate for your D tackles for the most part. But he is, when you think of game wrecker, it's him and a lot of those guys that we mentioned in the edge category.
Yeah, not a question who's number 1 here, Chris Jones. With Aaron Donald retiring, it's easily him, like you said. 10.5 sacks, 29 quarterbacks hit. No other interior defenders had a higher PFF grade than Chris Jones. He's a superstar. He's the anchor of this defense. This Chiefs defense was phenomenal last year. He was just another key reason, if not the key reason, outside of the secondary was great too, but he was the key reason this defense was so good. And we saw him make a Super Bowl winning plays. Just phenomenal all season.
All right. Linebackers. I'm going to start out with Matt Milano at 5 of the Buffalo Bills. He did get hurt last year, but he was really, really good in 2022. He was good at the start of 23. He was at points when this Bills defense seemed helpless. He was like the one glimmer of hope being in the coverage department. He's one of the better coverage linebackers in the league when he's healthy. I hope for his sake that he is going to be on the field to start the year. He got hurt in week 5 last year, so I'd assume he's going to be able to come back week 1 and continue to. I mean, he's going to be one of, if not the best player on the Bills defense going into next year.
Yeah, linebacker was tough. I think there's an easy top 2. And then outside of that, it's kind of just personal preference.
Yep.
I think I might have to go with Matt Milano as well. I think if he wasn't injured, if he didn't suffer that injury, I think he could have went all the way up to 3.
Yep.
But that injury really hurt him. He's phenomenal. That defense was incredible early in the season. They were great all year, but early in the season before some of the injuries that they faced, they were very good, and he was one of the main reasons. In 2022, he was phenomenal. 99 tackles, 3 interceptions, 11 pass breakups. That injury just hurt that he wasn't able to really dominate this season.
At 4, I actually have Patrick Queen, and this is a little bit projecting for next season. I just think he's going to be really, really good in the Steelers linebacking core. He's going to have a lot of help on his backside. He's going to have a lot of help in front of him with TJ Watt, of course. And I think he's going to be put in a position to really dominate. He flies around the field. He makes plays. He's going to have a lot of freedom. I think Patrick Queen is going to end up being what they thought Devin Bush was going to be in Pittsburgh. And I think he's going to have a phenomenal year there.
Yeah, for forward here, I think I'm gonna go with CJ Mosley of the Jets. Their defense was phenomenal last season. He had a career year, and he's at 31. I'm thinking he can continue that. 90.6 PFF coverage grade, 60 tackles in 2023, forced 2 fumbles. He was very good. There's a lot of guys who I have just on the outside looking in, but I have him at number 4.
All right. At number 3, I have Demario Davis of the Saints. We were joking about this before, how like linebacker is just kind of a weird position with ranks, but he's been good enough statistically his whole career since 2018, and he was great last year as well for the Saints. He's solid in coverage. He's really good defensively in the run game, and the reason I have him here is just because I think he's the most well-rounded. Patrick Queen and Matt Milano, I don't trust nearly as much in the rush game as I do Demario Davis, which I have him pushing up to 3. But like you said, I think 1 and 2 are pretty solidified, and yeah, personal preference for the rest.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think. I have Demario Davis at 3 as well. The only concern I have with him is his age. He is 35 this season, but like you said, he's been great against the run. He's great against the pass. He had 6.5 sacks last season, which was I think maybe his career high. It was 121 combined tackles. Very good in coverage. There's just a lot of honorable mentions here in this one. TJ Edwards of the Bears, Zaire Franklin, Frankie Louvu. There's a lot of guys I could think of. Just Trey Greenlaw, the Achilles injuries hurt. Bobby Okereke. There's a lot of guys.
All right. At 2, I have Roquan Smith. He was one of the best players, one of the best linebackers in the league when he was on the Bears. He was even better when he was on the Ravens. He doesn't miss tackles. He's all over the field. He is in many ways just a better version of Patrick Queen, and they were, of course, both on the Ravens last year. I think he's going to continue to dominate. I think it's tough to beat the guy at 1, but if he has another phenomenal season, there's no reason why he can't be the best linebacker in the league going into next year.
Yeah, he could be. I have Roquan Smith at 2 as well. He was great last season. 158 combined tackles, a sack and a half. Great in coverage. Was the leader of this Baltimore defense. We saw when they made the trade for him, a year and a half ago, how much their defense made a jump having his presence in the middle of the field. And he's been just another one of the great Ravens linebackers since. And he's only 27 years old or 26 years old. He's just going to continue to get better. So I have him at 2.
And then at 1, of course, Fred Warner. He's just the best linebacker in the league. It's not a question. He's not a guy that you are ever confident passing over the middle against the 49ers because of him. He's also a guy that turns it up in the playoffs. He can be like an extra DB out there. You don't have to worry about him getting absolutely smoked by tight ends and running backs. There's so many linebackers in the league right now that are just liabilities that DCs have to scheme around because they know that if they get a fast running back caught on their middle linebacker who's not that quick or can't move as well as the guys like Fred Warner and Roquan Smith have, they're going to have to just deal with that and they have to work around that. Teams like the Niners and the Ravens don't have to because they have such good linebackers in Warner and Smith. And that for that reason is why they have 2 of the best defenses in the league. So give me Fred Warner, of course, at number 1.
Yep, Fred Warner at number 1. He's been phenomenal. He can do literally everything on the football field defensively. He's great in the pass game. He can cover receivers, tight ends, whatever you need. He's great against the run, take on blockers. He can blitz if need be. He can be a spy on a quarterback. He can do anything on the field. He's continued to get better through his career. He's only missed 1 game in his entire career. He's been healthy. One of the best defensive players in the entire NFL. I think he could, if he has another great season, I think he deserves to be in at least the defensive player of the year conversation. Maybe not win it, but at least be in the conversation. He's very, very good. Good thing we didn't do this last year. I could have had Darius Leonard at number 1, and that would have been a disaster.
All right. Gonna swallow my pride here for number 5 at cornerback. I am gonna put Jalen Johnson. I was trying to find a way to keep him out, but some of the guys that I would have kept him out for just wasn't. I couldn't do it. I mean, I also hate Jair Alexander, and I think Jalen Johnson had a better year last year than Jair Alexander had. So he had the highest coverage grade at the corner position last year. Jalen Johnson did. He has great size. He has great ball skills from the cornerback position. I think he's going to be great. I don't think the Bears secondary is going to be great. I don't have a lot of confidence in any other piece in that secondary, even though Bears fans have been hyping them up. But Jalen Johnson is really, really good. I have him at my number 5 corner.
Yeah, at number 5, this is another position I feel like that is pretty deep. I went with Jair Alexander. I think his main issue is that he needs to be able to stay on the field and stay healthy. When he's able to stay healthy, he can be one of the best cornerbacks, if not, well, like a top 3, 4 cornerback. But he hasn't been able to stay on the field as much as some of these other guys. But talent-wise, I have him up there. Sub 70 passer rating in 2020 and 2022 when he was very healthy. Second team All Pro in those seasons. But injuries continue to harm him. He missed 7 games last season. I just think talent wise, he's better than some of the other guys. But it's a deep position. There's a lot of guys here as well.
All right, at 4, I have Travarius Ward of the Niners. I was hesitant to have him in my top 5, but he's had a great coverage grade the past few years for the Niners. The Niners corners they've gone through a lot of them in a short amount of time, but their defense has remained solid, and Travarius Ward being part of that is a big reason. Him and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, which finds them all in the top 5 on their lists. It's close for me between him and Jalen Johnson. Even as I say it now, I would almost rather have Jalen Johnson at 4, but I'm going to keep Jalen Johnson at 5 and have Ward at 4.
Yeah, at 4, I actually have Jalen Ramsey. He's consistently been one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL his entire career. He was good last year, 53.8% completion rate, 51.1% passer rating, and he did come back from a knee injury that he did get in training camp. I think he tore his meniscus. But Jalen Ramsey, he's very good. He'll talk a lot of shit, but he's usually able to back it up. I think he's also great against the run. He can tease the quarterback to throwing interceptions. He's elite, and I have him at 4.
All right, at 3, I have Pat Surtain of the Denver Broncos. He was great in 2022. He wasn't as good in 2023. He wasn't as good in coverage, but he's still really, really good. He has to face the top receiver every single game. There's no depth in that secondary at all. Their safeties were either hitting people and getting suspended or they're horrible. The rest of their corners were horrible. Their defense in general, their front 7 and their linebackers were pretty horrible. So I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. I see a lot of people hating on him a bit for having a down 2023. But regardless, I still think he's a top 3 corner in this league. I think situation matters a lot when we're talking about top 5s here. Give me Surtain at 3.
Yeah, while talking about Jalen Ramsey, I just had a thought. There is one guy who I'd have to look at the stats to really get a thought, but I kind of just forgot about Trayvon Diggs. I'd almost consider putting him in the top 5. Can't believe I forgot about him.
That's
definitely honorable mention.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, the injury hurt him.
Injury hurt him. He also had, I mean, even though he had all those picks, he did have a bit of a overrunning problem, going for picks too much, giving up yards.
Yeah, but he had figured it out a little bit the next year.
That is true. That is true. He did figure it out the next year.
He was locked down. But at 3, I actually have Jalen Johnson here. Career best in completion rate, 55.2 yards, or 55.2 yards per target was 4.8. Yards per completion, 8.7. He was phenomenal last season. He got paid in the offseason. It was deserved. Only allowed 195 yards and a 33.3% passer rating, or 33.3 pass rating as the nearest defender in coverage. He was very good last season. He helped his Bears defense turn around, especially late in the season when they looked like one of the best units in the NFL. He was one of the key reasons. He continues to get better. It's going to be interesting to see if he can take another step forward this season.
All right. Moving on here. Who'd you have at 5 again?
Jair.
Oh, okay. At 2, I have Jalen Ramsey. I think he is being significantly overlooked because I don't know, people like to just tear down big names sometimes. He had a torn meniscus in training camp last year, came back fully healthy and was really, really good when he was fully healthy. Hopefully he can continue to stay healthy. He's obviously getting up there a little bit in age, but when he's out there, he's easily a top five corner, arguably a top three corner. And I anticipate him to stay healthy, be cornerback one for the Dolphins all year this year with no Howard. I think that could hurt, but he's going to be going against wide receiver ones. And if wide receiver ones are not going off against Miami, you're going to quickly see people saying, "Oh wow, Jalen Ramsey is still top three. We shouldn't have been hating on him." I have Jalen Ramsey at number two.
Yeah, number two, I have Pat Surtain. He wasn't as good in 2023. He had some struggles, especially early in the year, but he figured it out. He's very good. The Broncos defense as a whole struggled early in the season, but they figured it out later in the season. He was very good. He was too valuable for the Broncos to give up, even when they were selling. I think if this defense can rebound, it's going to be mainly Pat Surtain. He can guard guys one-on-one. He's still very young. I think he's only going to get better. I have him as my second best corner.
At one, I have Sauce, of course. He had a great rookie year and had a pretty solid year too as well. The Jets were phenomenal on defense, like you spoke about when you said C.J. Mosley. He was a huge part of that. He doesn't get thrown at a lot, which is a problem because he doesn't get a ton of picks. But I mean, catch percentage allowed, passer rating allowed, yards allowed per coverage snaps per target, on and on and on. Forced incompletions, he's top two in everything. He's been really, really good for the Jets. It's Don't forget that the person who was in his draft, Aiden Hutchinson, does have more career picks, but regardless, I have Sauce at one.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could just be a victim of the ball not getting thrown this way. I saw
They don't
Gardner.
ever throw at Hutch's way.
Fair. Well, I mean, have the Jets played the Bears in recent years? When's the last time the Jets played the Bears?
I don't know. I don't think they played him in recent years.
Because I mean,
they play him this year. Maybe? No,
I'm just saying it because I mean he didn't get the luckiness of having Justin Fields getting lurked by getting a lurk on Justin Fields.
I'm
But
trying to think of who his three picks are against. I know it's the Bears, the Packers, so the Falcons maybe his third one. I don't know.
I just remember the Bears one is just an all-time Justin Fields play.
That's maybe my favorite highlight of Justin Fields' career. That or when he salsa danced after a 40-yard run and then they blew like a 12-point lead in like a minute.
You can say that. Yeah, for number one, I have Sauce Gardner as well. Started 14 games last season and received fewer than 60 targets. Teams just don't throw it his way. He's been elite. He doesn't have the biggest weight. He's not biggest weight wise, but he's just phenomenal. Only 55 targets in coverage. He's broken up 31 pass attempts through 2 NFL seasons. He's only given up 2 touchdowns. He's just a weapon. He's a guy you can throw at any player on the other team, and he's most likely going to shut them down or at least slow them down. We saw them with Darrelle Revis. Maybe it's just kind of Darrelle Revis 2.0, but he's been phenomenal, and he's the best corner in the NFL right now, in my opinion, and he's only going to get better.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the safeties, our last position of the day here. Oh, I lost my notes. Okay, here we go. 5, I have Kyle Hamilton. He was really, really good last year. I know he plays some linebacker, but I am still hesitant to put him very, very high. I know he's getting a lot of praise in the media right now, and I do think he's a very good player. I think he can improve a little bit in the run game. He's great in the pass game. I think he's going to improve a little bit in the run game. I think when we do this again next year, I do think I will have him higher on this list. He's just so young in his rookie year, and we've seen so many times a player go crazy in their rookie year and not do nothing in their second year. Last year, we didn't do this exact format last year before the NFL season, but I'm assuming if we did, I don't think I would probably have Sauce in my top 1 or 2 because it was just his rookie year and we hadn't seen it. And now he was dominant again last year and I had him at my number 1 spot. So if Kyle Hamilton could be dominant again next year, I will definitely move him up. But for now, I have him at number 5.
Yeah, number 5, I have Xavier McKinney, now a member of the Green Bay Packers, formerly a member of the New York Giants. Career high 87.5 PFF grade. That was fourth among safeties. He was phenomenal with that Giants defense that did play decently well. Uh, he only allowed a 53.2 passer rating. Um, the fifth lowest passer rating in the NFL among safeties with at least 200 coverage snaps. He was very good, played over 1,000 snaps. He was phenomenal. I have him in the top five. I think if he does it again, he's another guy, kind of like Kyle Hamilton, I guess, for you. That if he can do it again another season, I will definitely be moving him higher. So,
I'm gonna take a bit of a chance on this one. He had a bad year last year, but I'm gonna still have Derwin James in my top five at number 4. He's still one of the hardest hitting, if not the hardest hitting safeties in the NFL. Very similar to Kyle Hamilton, honestly. And Derwin James, similar to Kyle Hamilton, had a phenomenal start to his career. And 2 years ago, if we looked in the future and saw maybe you don't have him in your top five, I don't know, and I have him at 4, we'd be like, damn, what the fuck happened to the NFL? Because he was supposed to be one of the best, if not the best, defensive players in the league. He was great from 2018 and 2022. He was pretty bad last year for the Chargers, but the Chargers were as a whole bad. They didn't really have anything going for them, especially defensively. And it's really hard to be a dominant defensive player at the safety position if you have no help. It's not like edge where if you're just good enough, you're just going to beat enough guys and get enough sacks, and people are going to acknowledge you. It just doesn't work that way at the safety position. But I'm going to give Derwin James the benefit of the doubt because he had 5 great years before that. Give me Derwin James at 4.
yeah, this top four was kind of rough for me. At 4, I actually have Minka Fitzpatrick. Very good against the run, obviously. Just he dealt with a lot of injuries last season, which is probably the reason why I have him falling a little bit. Had one of maybe his worst season as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, Still phenomenal in the run, like I said. Run defensive grade above 80. Was great in coverage still, but only 625 snaps, including the postseason, wasn't enough for me to really move him higher, considering some of these other guys were so great last season. But he's phenomenal, very good, and any team would take him.
Yeah, I have Minka at 3. The injuries, I think, really just derailed last season, and I don't think you can take much of the negative from last season and look at it at face value. I think you have to grade that on a curve. He was still pretty good in, like you said, in the run game. He wasn't as good in the pass game, but I think he will be a lot better this year. I think if he can stay fully healthy, he's another guy who could be a consensus top 3 corner, or I mean safety. There's a lot of safeties. There's about like maybe 5 to 10 guys who they're one good year away this year from getting themselves into the top 5. It's that um iffy enough in the top 5 just as a whole. I mean, honestly, like 1 through 5, I don't know if we're gonna have the same guy at 1. I honestly don't think we will, but I have Mink at 3. I don't think injuries are gonna derail him next year. I think he's gonna have a great bounce back year.
Yeah, at number 3, I have Jesse Bates. You talked about him last year in the preview, and I'll give you respect or credit for it. You said he was going to be great with the Falcons, and he was. Had maybe his best season in the NFL last season
Definitely.
with the Falcons. 6 interceptions. One he was able to return for a touchdown. It was phenomenal in the pass. He could play in almost any defensive system, it seems. Was just phenomenal with the Falcons and in new scenery. He's elite safety. I mean, 6 interceptions says what it really needs to say. Phenomenal throughout the entire season, and was great in the run and pass as well.
At 2, I have Antoine Winfield Jr. from Tampa Bay. He's been phenomenal over the past few years in Tampa since he got drafted. Almost immediately, he was good, and he's been getting recognition from the NFL media completely. He's great in coverage in the secondary. He's like adding just like an extra great corner to your team. He's a difference maker. He has really good ball skills, which is just important for all of these guys at the safety position. I mean, all 5 of the guys I'm going to have in my top 5 have great ball skills, but regardless, I think he's I think he's going to continue to be good. And he's good enough in the run game that you can't overlook his pass, and you have to combine them, and it's hard to keep him out of the top 3. So I will have Antoine Winfield Jr. at 2. Highest paid DB in the league, I think, too, for one of them.
Yeah, I think he was after that franchise tag that he had. I have him at 2. He was phenomenal last season. Well deserved to get paid. He was great. He's phenomenal against the run. He makes a big impact. He can play the slot if need be. Great against the pass as well. He had 6 sacks that led all safeties, 20 QB pressures, qualifies as second most. He's if he's him and I had a tough job putting him at 2 over 1. I went back and forth. I think he could easily be number 1. He's young as well. For a lot of these guys, like I've said, he's only going to get better. Was the highest graded safety in the league last season at 90.7 on PFF. He's just phenomenal, and he's only going to get better.
That this is the first time I think I've been actually shocked on this entire episode. They put Kyle Hamilton at 1.
Yeah,
Shocked by that. But at 1, I have Jesse Bates. You said it. I really like Jesse Bates. He was phenomenal in Atlanta this year. He had to. I don't know if he led safeties in picks, but he had to have
I
been
think he
up
was
there.
second.
Okay, yeah, 6
I
picks.
don't
He
know who
had
was
to have been
one
up
though,
there.
because I saw he was second. I'm gonna.
Yeah, let's see. Interceptions 2024. But yeah, I mean, like you said, he um Jesus, I'd probably definitely look up DBs, not who threw the most. Um
Was it Javon Holland?
could have been, let's see. Holland had, I don't know, I don't see how many picks he had. Huh.
Oh, Geno Stone had 7.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. Okay, well, shout out Geno Stone, I guess. But back to Jesse Bates. He's just a difference maker. He's a game wrecker at the safety position. I swear, when you're watching a Falcons game, whenever the other team throws the ball, it just seems like either he's there late and he makes a tackle, or he's there to block it, or he's there to pick it off. He is just everywhere. And like you said, I was super, super happy for the Falcons when they made that deal because I thought it was going to be a great deal for them. I think looking back, it might be one of the best um, free agent acquisitions of last season for him in the offseason. And he's top 3 in both run defense and coverage grades for safeties. So I have Jesse Bates, the third, at number 1.
Yeah, I have Kyle Hamilton at number 1. Like Antoine Winfield, he's very versatile. He can play almost any position on the defensive side. He played 465 snaps in the slot, 301 as a free safety, 236 in the box, and pretty much contributed at every single spot. He was phenomenal. He had a couple pick sixes, 86.4 PFF grade. He's great in pass rush as well, but phenomenal in coverage. He's could improve in the run game, but I think he will continue to do that. He's still very young, like you said. I think he's only going to get better and become him and Roquan Smith are going to lead this Ravens defense for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that's about all we got, right? You got anything else on your mind?
No, I mean, best kicker in the NFL. I think that's pretty easy. Justin Tucker.
Oh, I guess we didn't do kicker. Yeah.
Kicker and punter.
Tucker 1, Jake Bates 2. That's about it for me. That's where it ends.
Matt Gay isn't. I think he makes
Harrison
the top
Butker
5.
3.
Yeah, Butker.
Off field.
That gotta be in there. Young Wake Koo.
Of course, yeah. And then Cairo Santos 32.
Daniel Carlson.
Daniel Carlson.
Not Anders. Not to be confused with Anders Carlson.
No, not to be confused. He's 33. Is he even still on the Packers? No, right? There's no chance he's still on the Packers.
If he is, he better be in a kicker battle.
It's him versus Greg Joseph in the kicker battle.
Oh wow, give me Greg Joseph.
Greg Joseph has to win that. That's an easy kicker battle for Greg Joseph.
That's still a rough battle to have.
Greg Joseph's on the Packers now. I didn't know that. Good for him, I guess.
Punters in the NFL, give me Bryce Behringer at number 1.
Jack Fox at number 1.
AJ Cole, he's good. Johnny Hecker, is he still punting?
Are we doing
non-NFL
too?
Who's not in the NFL? Oh, yeah. Pat McAfee 1. Yeah. Tommy Townsend. Yeah. I don't know anything about. But I stopped caring about punters when they got rid of Mark King and Pat McAfee retired.
Yeah, shout out Mark King. Oh, the fact that he gave Mark Davis a noogie at PF Chang's is hilarious. I'll never get over that. And then he got cut like the next day or some shit.
Yeah.
But that'll about do it for this episode of the Engaging.
And for kickers, we forgot about what's his name from the Cowboys.
Oh
my gosh, what's his name?
I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Brandon Aubrey. Brandon Aubrey.
Brent Aubrey, right? For some reason, like I couldn't stop thinking of Greg the Leg
Yeah.
in my head when I was trying to envision Cowboys quarterbacks. But as I was saying, we will be back next week. Next week is when we're going to start our division previews. We haven't figured out if we're going to do it in twos or in ones, depending on like if we're going to lump the AFC and NFC North, or if we're going to do them in two separate episodes and just do two short episodes a week, or one long one. We haven't really decided what we're going to do for that yet. But the next 4 weeks will be division previews, and then leading up to that, right after the fourth division preview, we will have the NFL season. So we'll get into a week one preview, which I'm so excited for. We're almost there. We're making our way there.
Getting there, man.
But
College football preview maybe too.
yeah, college football too as well. So we could. I've completely forgot about that. We definitely could. We'll throw that on one of the division preview episodes. We'll put that in there. But yeah, we will be back next week. I don't know what division we're going to start with. We'll figure it out. You guys will know when you see the title of the next video. But like, subscribe, follow, hit all those links in the description for Spotify and all that good stuff. And we will see you guys in the next one.